The anime begins on a dark cloudy night. It isn't like every other night, as the dark moon takes the life of a very strong human Tomoki Kanata. A lady stabs him with a knife repeatedly while trying to ensure that he dies. Tomoki thinks about the life he has lived before that moment. He admits that his name doesn't matter at that point, but he knows that that night is going to be the last day of his life. The young lady insists that she will kill him. She calls him his name and tells him he will die. No one gets stabbed that way without knocking on the door of the heavens, and even Tomoki doesn't survive it. However, it is a shock for him when he opens his eyes and realizes that he is alive, but he is no longer alive as a human. It is day 1 of Tomoki's Reborn, and as he opens his eyes, the first thing he sees is a green ugly animal, while a goblin of which he will be too. The older goblin looks at him and thinks about the name to give him. He had once named another goblin born on that day Gobkichi, so he can't give Tomoki that same name, and as a result he gives him the name Gobru. Tomoki, well now Gobru, is so disappointed. Why will the man give him such a low-effort name? He can't even move his body or legs, but all he knows is that he is still alive at the moment, and if it is a second chance at life he will gladly accept it. He closes his eyes again and he wakes up the following day, which is his second day of Reborn. He looks around him and sees several green, ugly-looking kids. I wonder why he condemned them without realizing that he looks just like them. When he looks at his hands, he confirms his suspicions that he is just like them. Does he mean he has been reborn as a goblin? That reality causes him nothing more than tears. He screams because he is weak and helpless in that state that he is. Eventually his tears dry up. Third day he wakes up stronger. He can now walk and he confirms that goblins really grew up early. The elder goblin returns and gives them a meal, then tells them that will be the last meal he will be offering to them, and from the next day they need to track down their meals themselves. To take the elevated off the outside, Gobre walks out of the cave and sees the sun. To be honest, it is really a pleasure to be alive. Although he may not have the type of life he wanted and the kind of life he lived before, it is a second chance at life and he promises himself that this time he will survive. He doesn't even know how to find food and he sees that the sun and the atmosphere look different. It isn't the kind of life he is used to, and he needs a partner to navigate it. He looks at his back and he sees another goblin Gobkichi. He calls Gobkichi and asks him if he is also trying to look for food. He decides to partner with Gobkichi so they can find food together, not for any other reason, but for him to figure out how the world really works now. They target a rabbit and Gobkichi chases the rabbit while he jumps from the top of the tree and kills the rabbit. He realizes that his technique with Gobkichi may not be as useless as he thought it would be. A chase and kill game will really make food easier for him. Before he could catch his breath, Gobkichi went to the rabbit to eat it. He gets pissed at him and hits him, telling him that he doesn't have the right to eat the meal they caught together alone. After teaching Gobkichi a lesson, he goes to the rabbit and takes its horn. Immediately he gets a notification that he has gotten a small rabbit horn. He wonders if he would be able to use the horn as a weapon for his next catch. He shares the meal with Gobkichi, who eats happily with tears in his eyes. The next day he goes to hunt with Gobkichi. After Gobkichi had chased the rabbit, he jumped from the tree and stabbed the rabbit with the horn he had taken the day before. That works really great for him as the rabbit died at the first attack. He further takes the horn of the rabbit and he gets another notification that he has gotten a medium horn. He shares the meal with Gobkichi, and while watching him eat, he gets a notification that he has gotten the skill named Escape. He connects that to his first life, realizing that just as in his first life, he has the magic skill called Absorption. With Absorption, he could eat anything and he wouldn't get hurt. Instead, he would get all the skills and powers that the animal he has eaten. He is glad because it will be better to use the skills here. After all, several monsters are lurking around and he can actually get points and skills from them. He returns to his cave with Gobkichi to talk about the rabbit horn they had gotten that day, and they eats. One of their fellow goblin, Gobmi, a female goblin, comes to meet them, shocked that they are haunted the horn rabbit. She tells Gobru that he is awesome and the last she heard about rabbit horns. It is impossible for them to haunt the horn rabbit because they may get injured. She tells him he is extraordinary and Gobkichi gets jealous and asks if she thinks he is the same, but she says no. Trying to chase her away, Gobru invited Gobmi to their next hunting. Unfortunately, rain falls the next day, which is day 5, and he couldn't go hunting. 6th day, he moves to explore the material and takes a metal to carve as a weapon. During that encounter he sees some women who have been held captive, and for reasons best known to him, he feels pain on their behalf. The next day, day 7, he starts causing his weapon from the metal. As he does that, the elder goblin who had given him a low effort comes to meet him, appreciating his great ability and telling him that if he continues like that, he may level up fast. He asks if he knows his present level and tells him to tap his head to find out. When he taps his head, he sees he is in level 86. The elder informs him that if he enters level 100, he will be able to get to evolve Hobgoblin, but just a few goblins do that within that short period of time. While walking away, the elder informs them that the following day the older goblins who are hobgoblins will return from their trip to the city to get food, and he is excited to see what they will bring. On the 8th day, Gobra's newest friend Gourmet helps him hunt down the crimson snakes of the forest. With the strategy of attacking from all sides, Gourmet first launches a rock at the snakes from above a tree, followed by Kikuchi, who uses a wooden baton to hit the approaching snakes. With Gobkichi fighting as a forward, Gourmet fighting as their backup, and Gore fighting in the mid-range, the group easily hunts down snakes, and even a bunch of raccoons. After the hunt is over, the 3 goblins scale the snake skins down immediately and enjoy the fresh delicacy that compares to literal heavens. Gourmet begins crying as she has never eaten anything else before, except the worms offered by the elder, so she becomes greatly grateful to Gore for letting her be on his crew. Gore takes a bite of the snake, which prompts the system to notify him that he has unlocked 5 new skills, including thermography poison, poison resistance, locate, and the evil eye. Having acquired these skills, Gore realizes that the snake must have been a monster of a high level, which makes him happy that he managed to kill. Gobkichi politely asks Gore to let him eat the snake's head. However, Gore doesn't let him even touch it, claiming that the head is poisonous, and he proceeds to eat it himself. For the next 2 days, Gore keeps on doing his usual hunting and prepares more of his hunting gear with the team. They become so confident in their abilities that they make the mistake of exploring caves. Thankfully for them, they manage to escape just in time from a swarm of enraged bats. Just before escaping the cave, Gobkichi showcases his new shield and uses it as a tank to protect the main swordsman in their party. Gore, who begins slashing down the bats, showcasing his skills, and then uses his evil eye ability, prompting all of the bats to immobilize in mid-air. Because of their foolish bravery, they luckily exterminate the entire bat cave and begin to eat them as well. Their appetite is out of this world, literally. By eating the bats, Gore unlocks new sets of abilities called Echolocation, Vamp Up, and Vanphilia, so he becomes satisfied with the outcome of today's hunting. The other goblins in Gore's home start growing jealous, seeing the 3 enjoy such delicacies when they are barely surviving by eating worms, yet they fail to come up with the courage to ask Gore for some spare food and keep watching as their mouths keep on drooling. On the 12th night, the 6 jealous goblins from before decide to attack Gore when he is asleep, because if he dies then they will get all of his food, right? Wrong, that's not how it works. Who's going to provide the food if the supplier is dead? Goblins are stupid. What can you do about it? Anyway, Gore doesn't get beaten though, as he senses their evil intents using his surge skill and single-handedly defeats all 6 of them. Gourmet, who wakes up by the sudden commitment, realizes what's going on. So she too joins Gore and tries to even take one of her brethren's lives. Thankfully, Gore stops her in time and calms her down, saying that they have already learned their lesson. The next day, Gore and his team attack an orc who is just minding his own business and brutally eliminate him, which results in him learning orc skills like libido, orc language, and detecting and analyzing. Right after, they go hunting again, and this time Gore offers all of the food to the goblin house in order to get them on his side. After helping out the helpless in this new world, Gore gets a weird sense of satisfaction and gets proper sleep for the first time. However, the system doesn't let him sleep, notifying him in mid-sleep that he is evolving into a new form called Hobgoblin. Because of this evolution, Gore gets gifted with the blessing of the Grand God of Demise and Origin. However, he doesn't notice the writing on the screen and continues sleeping. Because of this evolution, when he wakes up the next morning not knowing what has happened, he finds himself looking way taller than before and also discovers Gobkichi to have also evolved into his Hobgoblin form. Seeing that both of them are maturing to adulthood in just 14 days, even the elder becomes amazed and wonders how they managed to rank up that much in such a short amount of time. Gore proposes to Gobkichi that they go out hunting to test out how strong they have become because of their transformation. However, Gobkichi comes up with a better idea and challenges Gore in a duel to test their new strengths. Both goblins smash their fists towards each other with their full strength, but Gore comes at the top as he seems to have the better edge in terms of power. As a wolf roars in the far distance, Gore senses trouble and asks Gourmet to fetch them the crossbow they had made the other day. It was revealed that a pack of wolves are hunting down wild rabbits nearby, and they don't just stop there, they even go on to devour many orcs. However, Gore doesn't feel threatened by the wolves. Rather, he decides to make them his next target to test out how truly strong he has become overnight. Instructing Dabmi to use the crossbow to shoot down the leader of the wolf pack, Gore manages to distract the wolves towards him, and Gobkichi they takes down every single one of the wolves, one after another, using perfect teamwork. After a few minutes, the two brothers manage to take down all of the wolves without getting a scratch. The leader of the wolf pack gets up with the undying resolve to take down the guy who has killed all of his brethren, but because it is not a main character, it fails to stand a chance against Gobru, who devours it and once again attains a bunch of skills, including military leadership. Afterward, Gobru brings all of the dead wolves back to the den, where he strictly instructs the other goblins to hunt the same amount of monsters that he has been single-handedly killing in a day to make sure they don't keep on freeloading. But because neither of them possesses any hunting skills, they beg Gobru to teach them how to fight like him. After a bit of begging, Gobru decides to teach everyone how to hunt and make weapons, gaining all of their support and instantly becoming all of the goblins' leaders. In a few days of undergoing basic training, all of the goblins became moderately trained, but most importantly Gobmi evolves into a fine-looking lady, ready to be cooked by the Riz Lord Gobru. The story continues on day 17. All the human women that were captive took their own life, and Gobru had a quiet memorial for them with Elder Goblin Gobji. We then move on to day 24, and Gobru was training the other goblins. In the meantime, he had also been eating every promising enemy he could find and learned a lot of new abilities. Just then, another group of goblins begins approaching. Gobru prepares to protect everyone against them, but Gobji stops them and explains that there are their raiders. Gobru then shocked to hear that they're also the fathers of Gobru's generation of goblins. The raiders have captured another group of human women, and the evil goblins are glad since their last batch took their own lives. It turns out that goblin DNA is so strong that when they meet with other species, it still results in goblin children. Gobru can understand the instinct to reproduce, but that doesn't mean he's okay with what's going on. He requests that he be the one to look after the human women, but this just upsets the raiders. Gobru's generation of goblins is ready to stand up for him, but this just begins to divide the two groups. Just then two goblin girls arrive to casually tell the two sides to stop getting themselves into a civil war. They are Hobsato and the mage Hobse. These genius girls come up with a brilliant idea to have the leaders of both generations fight, and the winner decides what the village will do from now on. The raider wants to teach Gobru a lesson, and Gobru agrees to fight as well. The fight ends very quickly as Gobru uses some kind of mysterious string. The others can't understand how he did it, so Gobru explains that it just comes out of his body. He then thinks about how its ability he learned that allows him to produce spider silk, and he learned that after eating a demon spider. The girls are amazed that someone like him was born while they were gone, and Gobru announces his new official status as leader of the village. He asks if anyone has a problem with that, but no one decides to stand up against him. Gobru then tells the humans that he ordered everyone to keep their hands off of them. He won't do anything either, and they will find the time to send them back to a human village. The girls wonder if they will have to do anything, and we learn that Gobru wasn't being completely selfless with his actions. He wants the knowledge of the humans. Gobru asked them some questions and learned that these girls were part of a traveling business when the goblins attacked them. All the men were slaughtered, and these 5 girls were the only survivors. On day 28, Gobru is surprised to see that the girls seemed happy. He realizes that they haven't gotten over everything, they're just having a positive attitude since it will make things easier. Gobru cooked for them, hoping that it would help. Among the girls were 2 sisters that are cooks as well as tailors. The one with glasses is an alchemist, and the absent-minded girls an appraiser and a smith. As for the redhead, she is a rookie warrior, so he decides to have her join their training later. Gobru then trained everyone hard and insulted them when they got tired. For the next few days he focused on group exercises instead of hunting, and he beat into them the new rules he set for the group. Day 31 was rainy, so Gobru and Gobkichi did some really intense sparring as everyone watched in amazement. That night, Gobru sensed that a group of goblins were about to break his rule regarding the human women. Gobru sliced right through one of the goblins and restrained the others. He reminds them of the rules he set and punishes one of them for talking back to him. Gobru apologizes to the women, and the redhead cries in his arms. The other goblins arrive, so Gobru orders Gobkichi to take the restrained goblins outside. He also has Gobmi gather the other goblins so they can watch what he's about to do. Outside, Gobru sends a message to the others by using these guys as an example. He beats them relentlessly and makes sure that everyone really understands their village rules. Everyone gets the message loud and clear, so Gobru dismisses them. Gobru stopped just short of ending their lives, which meant that Hobkin, who got the worst of the punishment, passed away the next morning. On day 32, Gober's team uses their amazing teamwork once again to take down a tri-horned horse. It was pretty tough, but there's just meant that he also received a ton of new abilities. Tri-burst is one of them, and it amazingly allows him to deal 3 blows with just 1 strike. That night, the redhead goes to sleep in Gober's bed and he realizes that the incident from the night before must have traumatized her. Gober comforts her and allows her to spend the night with him. However, when he wakes up, Gober finds that Gourmet joined them as well. That day they also find that the female goblin named Gabby evolved into a hobgoblin as well. Overall, things have been going pretty smoothly. Gourmet runs the ranged unit and Dobkichi in charge of their armed forces, Hobsato handles the mobility-oriented force, and Gabby has taken over rear support, which focuses on doing chores. Hobsei would act as the captain of their mage force, but right now she's the only mage in their village. For the rest of this day, Gober leaves the training to the captain so he could head deep into the forest to hunt a variety of prey. Gober tries out some demise magic and shocked to see just how powerful it is, as he easily destroys one of the powerful tri-horns with 1 attack. Gober will only realize after this that the magic made him overconfident as he went into the northern forest. There he finds a strange area with a ton of blood and he remembers something that Gabji told all the goblins. Gabji warned them to never go into the northern forest for any reason. Inside, there is a terrifying crimson monster called the Red Bear. This is where Gober finds himself now, and he sees that this monster easily tore through a tri-horn. The tri-horn's armor was incredibly difficult for them to pierce earlier, but it was nothing for this bear. Just then, the Red Bear appears and Gober acknowledges that a normal person would probably try to run away. Gober is not a normal person though. He wants to fight it, beat it, and eat it to see what kind of abilities he will get. Gober plans to use every weapon in his arsenal, so he starts off by using Phase 1 demise magic. Back at the village, Gourmet becomes concerned that she hasn't seen Gober in a while. The others haven't seen him either, so this just makes her more worried. Back with Gober, he is shocked when the Red Bear sacrifices his right arm to defend against his demise spell. The bear unleashes a flurry of attacks and Gober can tell that the refined skill armor he received from the Trihorn won't be able to protect him. Gober must go on the offensive, so he goes to attack the bear's head. He is once again shocked though when his weapon is unable to pierce its skull and the bear sends him flying. Gober covers the bear in string, but it breaks free and shockingly uses a crazy strong fire breath attack. The forest is covered in fire and Gober must heal his wounds. The attack was very concerning since Gober had never seen or even heard of a fire-breathing bear in his past life. This is a very dangerous opponent, so Gober realizes that he will just have to be willing to take some damage to win. Gober moves in for another attack and protects himself from the fire breath. The beast is pretty tough on the outside, but Gober cleverly uses the fire breath attack against the bear and he pierces it right through its mouth. Gober is pleased with himself, but he is shocked to find that it wasn't enough. The ferocious bear knocks him back, and Gober does his best to limit the damage he takes. Gober still took a lot of damage from the incredibly powerful attack, so he concedes that this round was a draw. His blade is still inside the bear's mouth, so at least it won't be able to use its fire breath anymore. This crazy strong bear still shows no sign of collapsing, but Gober is just one attack away from losing his life. Gober had a huge disadvantage, but this guy is crazy as he proclaims that it would just make his meal taste even better. Gober goes in for more fighting and manages to deal some damage. It's not enough, so he tells the bear that he wants to eat him already and he moves in for another attack, but we see that he loses an arm. On day 34, Gober has finally won the crazy battle, but he barely survived. Gober finally gets to eat the bear, and he receives a ton of powerful traits. Among them are heavy damage and overpowering strength. Gober passes out soon after, but we once again see that he has exceeded his level values and met all conditions. This now allows him to evolve into a rare ogre species. His conscience is fading away, so Gober simply selects yes without reading. On day 35, Gober continues to eat the bear and gains even more incredibly powerful traits. He reaches for his knife, which seems much smaller than before, and Gober is shocked to realize that he has become an ogre. Gober returns to the village, but everyone is terrified of him and they fear that they are under attack. They prepare to run as they wonder why the ogre is smiling at them and they wish the Gober was there to save them. Luckily, Gourmet recognizes him, but instead of being surprised by his evolution, she is mad at him for being gone for so long. She just ends up hurting herself, but she still scores Gober. She is upset that he lost his arm, but the others are all amazed that he took down the red bear. Gabji is most shocked of all as he points out that Gober was able to defeat the master of the northern woods just 1 month after he was born. Everyone had questions for him, but Gober was just glad that he survived and was able to make it to his new home in his new world. The story continues. We see everyone is still amazed by Gobra's evolution as he has gotten much bigger and stronger looking. Gobra goes to check on the human women, but he is followed closely by Gourmet and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him, but he manages to calm them down by explaining that it's him. Gourmet though seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see that he wrecked the X that she made him, but reveals that she has made her knife using a special spirit stone. Gobra praises her, but finds that the other girls have started to pinch him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duties, so Gobru explains that he will assign a few goblins to help them out. Gobru is impressed that they have gotten used to being around goblins so quickly, so he tells them that they would make great wives. He wonders if they want to be his wives, and they call him a sly dog. Gobru is pleased by their smile, but once again the redhead and Gourmet get more upset. Gobru then finds that the alchemist has made poison. Originally it was for self-defense, but now that there is a goblin she can trust like Gobru, she has no use for it. Gobru picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he could instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Gobru spent all his time cheering up the girls, but now his spirit is exhausted. On day 36, Gobru realized that he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that regular goblins were ending up in critical condition from even his lightest punches. Even Gobkichi's armor couldn't withstand them, as Gobru heals a near-dead goblin and he wonders what's wrong with Gobkichi. Gobkichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Gobru can tell that something's wrong. Aside from that, Gobru has started to notice that Hobsato and Gourmet has started hunting together. The red-headed woman is training by herself and Gourmet is continuing her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Gobru, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's slime, thanks to the fact that he had a slime before. Gobru wonders if Gobkichi will be okay, but Hobsate points out that it depends on how much effort Gobkichi puts in. The two argue as Gobru wishes Hobsate would give him back his book, and he thinks about how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabi panics as she found some little creature in really bad shape. Gobru does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they explain who they are to the thing they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Returner and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is set to be as high as 1 billion gold. Returner asks that they lend her their power and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Gobru is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master named Velvet was a famous legendary magician and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Returner explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken so her lifespan was shortened. In the secret treasure room lies legendary class items the Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Returner explains that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure, rather than the adventurer humans. They can have everything, so Gobru declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he tells the frightened girls not to worry as he won't blatantly eliminate the humans. His job is just to get them to leave, but warns that he might have to use some force if they don't listen. They then go through the whole Gabi made, as is the way to the treasure room. Gobru decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he tells the others to hide. He finds the adventurers who are searching for their treasure room, but they think that he is just another monster that they need to defeat. They attack him but are quickly shocked when he is able to detect the presence of their invisible assassin. Gobru explains to them that this is someone's house and what they're doing is robbery and murder. It's clear that they don't have any guilty either, so Gobru determines that they are beyond saving. The stupid humans are just shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Gobru says that luckily for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen as they attack him instead, but Gobru just easily dodges it all and once again tells them to leave. They don't listen, so Gobru analyzes the situation. The humans have 3 in their backline. They're using a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, it's pretty clear to Gobru that they're relying too much on level enhancement to increase their fighting strength. This doesn't do much for them since their fighting technique itself is pitiful, and Gobru is easily able to beat them up. Just then one mage celebrates as he thinks he just blew Gobru's head off. They are of course shocked though when it becomes clear that his attack just angered Gobru. He has allowed them to live up to this point, but Gobru was done being nice. The humans wet themselves as they realize that their level 3 magic spell did nothing. Gobru declares that the time for being nice is over. He signals to the others to attack and they spring into action. Gobru takes out his blade and tells the humans to regret not leaving when he gave him the chance. Afterwards, Gobru revealed that they eliminated the adventurers and ate them. This gives Gourmet a bunch of their traits, including Assassin, High Wizard, and Enchanter. That isn't all though, as there were some pretty high-level adventures among them and they had some pretty good loot. There's a rare ring and item storage bag with a bunch of items in it, so Gourmet just eats those too. Among other things, this allows Gourmet to summon a cheat item box that can store an incredible amount of items. They then head to the treasure room where Returner thanks them. She explains that her master Velvet is great with spirits, which is why a ton of spirit stones can be mined there. She wishes good health to Gourmet as they say goodbye and she vanishes. It's a pretty sad moment, so Gourmet would just eats the gem from her head that she left behind. The slick Gobkichi wonders if Gabi is okay and she says that she is fine. They have a moment of silence for Returner and afterwards Gourmet decides that they will take all the treasure and split it amongst themselves. Gourmet marvels at his item box because it still has a lot of space even after shoving all the treasure into it. Gourmet doesn't like the idea of just leaving Velvet's body there, so he cremates it. Surprisingly, this leaves some kind of gauntlet. Gourmet ties it on and it's done when this thing attaches itself to him and becomes his new arm. The others are amazed to see it and Gourmet shows what it can do as it feels just like his own arm. When they leave, Gourmet decides to have a party to celebrate the successful mission. On day 38, Gourmet appraises all the loots got with the blacksmith and finds that everything is insanely rare and powerful. On day 39, Gourmet explains that he gave the 10 hobgoblins in their group some magical items. As for himself, Gourmet chose to take the Vermilion Spear. That, along with 2 other items he chose, means that he now has 3 legendary class artifacts. Legendary class is second only to Phantasm class in item ranks, and it is said that the holder can rule entire countries with just one of them. Later that day they go hunt for ingredients for some bear soup and Gourmet glad to see how strong everyone is getting. On day 40, Gourmet decided to have a tournament to see who would be the leader of the hobgoblins, not including himself. He also established a mercenary group. On day 41, Gourmet goes in search of monsters he has never seen before. The first one he found was a golden spider that dropped some valuable looking items. Eating them allows them to now make gold string that he is sure he will be able to make accessories out of. The next animal was some red deer, but eating just one of them didn't give him any traits. Further exploring leads Gourmet to a great tree. He explains that in this world there exists a species called dryads. According to Gobji, they tempt males from other intelligent species and use them as their own nutrition. Dryads are only females and they are so beautiful that men are unable to hold back after looking at them. The reason Gourmet is explaining this is because one of these dryads has appeared before him. She admires Gourmet's huge muscles and tells him that she would just like to talk. Gourmet struggles to control himself in the face of her charm, but he must, otherwise she will use him as nutrition. He has to avoid that at all costs, and he can't let his guard down. Gourmet decides that he must use the ability he has never used before called libido. After taking 5 hours to eat the dryad, Gourmet earns a trait called Dryad's Blessing. The dryad is still alive somehow, so she tells Gourmet to return soon, but he just says that he will if he feels like it. Afterwards, Gourmet takes a bath in the lake and it's soon surrounded by lizard men. He declares that today he is invincible, so Gourmet makes quick work of them and even takes out another monster for good measure. On day 42, Gourmet finds that 2 goblins have an aptitude for magic. They immediately become part of Hobsei's platoon, but her devious-looking smile worries Gourmet. Later that day, Gourmet learns how to enchant his weapon, but this seems to upset the blacksmith girl. On day 43, Gabi is angry at her boy, but no one explains to them why, and they just tell him to use his head. The redhead is just as angry and the twin cook seems upset as well as they try to feed him poisoned food. The alchemist is surprised that someone as perceptive as Gourmet hasn't noticed, and reveals that the girls are upset because they are jealous. They know that he had a date with someone, and he is shocked to hear that he has kiss marks on his neck. Gourmet had no idea, and he curses Dryad for doing it on purpose. Gourmet tries to think about his next course of action, but he is shocked when the alchemist reveals that she feels the same way and gives him a kiss. She hopes that he accepts her feelings, but Gourmet didn't expect this at all from her. He thinks about how it does make him happy, but Gabi arrives furious. She wants Gourmet to treat her the same way, and all the human girls arrive to say the same thing. Outside the room, Gabi explained that Gourmet has sealed it off so they can take care of some work, and Gourmet earns a lot more traits. The story continues. We see Gourmet senses that someone is approaching and finds that it's a group of noble elves. Humans are about to attack them to get their treasure, so they have come to ask for the goblins' help. This elves guy has a bad attitude, but they're offering to give them an entire couple months of food for their village. Gabji thinks it's a good offer, but Gourmet surprisingly refuses. He doesn't care about the situation, he just wants him to be more sincere when asking for help. The guy prepares to attack Gourmet, but Gourmet strikes fear into their very souls with one terrifying glare. Gourmet then warns him to tell his hidden archers to lower their bows. They try to shoot him instead, but they have no chance of hurting Gourmet. The elf has them stop attacking and Gourmet explains that he's rejecting his offer because he's simply not in a good mood. However, the goblins live in this forest as well. If the humans are going to cause problems, then he wouldn't be against teaming up. Gourmet would then amazes everyone as he uses his legendary weapon to threaten all the elves at once. Gourmet doesn't even really understand fully how it works, but if he stabs something with it, he's able to produce a limitless amount of spears that can extend 100 meters out. The elves run away terrified, so Gourmet hopes he doesn't see them again for a while. On day 45, Gourmet hunts down 20 gray slime. Eating their cores gives them a bunch of abilities, including fluid regeneration and auto-replication. Gourmet gives auto-replication a try and finds that he can create a tiny version of himself from his blood. He can even see himself from this thing, which means that they have linked senses. This gives our main character Gourmet a brilliant idea. On day 46, he has the girls make some clothing with his blood in the lining. This way the clothes can serve as a transmitter in case they're ever in danger. On day 47, one of Gourmet's mini scouts find that the elves didn't learn their lesson as they have returned. This time Gourmet just lets out a loud roar from within the cave and the elves are terrified if they can't even move. Gourmet doesn't even say a word when he emerges and simply captures them. The elf leader explains the caboose lack of respect wounded his pride and this has earned Gourmet more than one death. The other elves, however, apologize for not being able to stop their boss. Gourmet has come to a decision, but it's a harsh one. Their boss can already be considered dead, but the rest of them will have a chance to survive. Gourmet will have them face the goblins in a mock fight, and the elves that win will live. Gourmet's choice is a fair one as he declares that if they want to survive then they will have to fight with everything they have. In the end, out of the 23 elves, 6 of them were defeated. The 6 were all men, but Gourmet admits to himself that he tweaked the fights because he doesn't like seeing women get eliminated. Gourmet then snacks on the losers and he gets a lot more abilities. Gourmet then reveals to the survivors that they are now prisoners. They thought they would be set free, but Gourmet reminds them that they still try to eliminate the goblins. Gobji thinks that the elf prisoners will be a lot of fun, but Gourmet reminds him that there are rules against touching prisoners. Gobji vows to listen to his leader, but still begs as he is desperate. Gourmet then goes to give the final punishment to the leader of the elf unit. On day 48, we see that Gobkichi reaches level 100. On day 49, everyone is amazed to see that Gobkichi has evolved into a special variant. His dark red color is the result of a blessing from the demigod of flame, and his iron heart skin is a blessing from the demigod of war. Gobkichi explains that Gourmet hasn't had someone to spar with since he became an ogre, and Gobkichi was worried that he would never catch up to him. Gobkichi is different now though, so they spar outside. Gourmet still dominates the fight, but Gobkichi is surprisingly able to hold his own. Gourmet eventually wins the fight, but the match proved to him that Gobkichi really is his rival. That night, Gourmet was exhausted and he was met by a strange figure. This thing apologizes for some reason and gives Gourmet a gift as it's the least it can do. Gourmet wakes up but has no clue what just happened. On day 51, Gourmet wonders if Gobkichi inspired the others because they have 4 new hobgoblins. One is even suited to be a mage and another will be a cleric. The cleric's name is Gabji, and he promises to heal as many people as possible. Hobsei has evolved as well, growing into the Lord family as one half spell lord. Spell lords don't usually have markings like the one on her arms, and Gourmet notices that they look like the ones on his body. Hobsei is overflowing with mana, so she wants to test her strength outside. She demonstrates her immense power with an incredible fire attack, and explains that she can do another 20 of those at least. This is pretty incredible, but what's more surprising is that she is only a half spell lord right now, and she will likely evolve into a full spell lord next time. Gourmet gives some new gear to match her evolution, and she tells the jealous Hobsato that she will catch up soon enough. Gourmet realizes the evolutions have been happening pretty frequently, and he suspects that he is the reason why. A goblin's environment during their first month of life has a major effect on the rate of growth. It's pretty great to have everyone getting stronger, but Gourmet admits that not everyone in the village is so lucky. On day 52, the older generation of goblins express their displeasure. They have been trying their best to hang in there, but they are being left behind by all the young goblins. They have decided to leave the village and they are shocked when Gourmet decides not to end their lives for betraying him. Gourmet explains that they aren't stealing anything, so it's their choice if they want to leave. What's even more surprising is that Gourmet gives them a parting gift. It's a magical knife made of mithril with an incredibly sharp edge. On day 53, Gobre finds a human that had his life taken by an orc. There was no hope left for him, but after Gobre ate him he found that he had a very interesting ability. He hopes that using it well will be a way to honor the guy. This ability is called Monster Tamer. That night, Gobre was happier than ever when the alchemist reveals that she was able to make booze. On day 54, Gobre announces that the previous generation of goblins has left a village, and he offers to allow anyone else to join them. No one else wants to leave, so they have a toast. On day 55, the genius Gobre worked on producing earrings with his blood in them so they could serve as communication devices. On day 56, Gobre found that they work perfectly, so he made enough for everyone. On day 57, Gabby took down a trihorn and Gobre tested out his monster tamer ability that he got from the human. It worked perfectly and the trihorn became the first familiar. On day 55, we find that Gobre also has a gray bear familiar. The head of a black wolf pack became his pet and bodyguard for the human women. On day 59, Gobre experienced an incredible shock. The red-headed girl, who was really weak at first, has grown into a powerful warrior. While they are eating, Gabber gets surprised when she finds that she just got a new job. Moments later, she shows off her new hunting prowess, and Gobre explains that her new job is Shadow Soldier. She now needs to periodically eat monsters or she will die. However, it results in some astonishing growth. Later, Gobre was told that humans have been attacking goblins roaming the forest, so he realizes that it's nearly time for the war between them and the humans. On day 60, Gobre senses the kobolds are being chased by something that he can't even detect with his search ability. When the kobolds make it to the cave, they find that the pursuers are magically animated skeletons. Gobme's archers are just trying to shoot them down, but the arrows do nothing to them. There are an incredible amount of skeletons, so Gobkichi fears that things are going to get really bad. Gobre's search ability allows him to see one large signal behind all the skeletons, which is likely the one thing creating them. The others tried to fight off the skeletons and one of Hobsato's attacks missed. Gobre realized something. Cutting the skeletons doesn't work, but smashing them apart is incredibly effective. Everyone puts down their weapons and they start bashing all their opponents. There are still too many of these things, so Gobre decides that he will have to put an end to the battle. He begins a countdown in his head as he makes his way through the skeleton army. He ends up finishing 3 seconds early, but he manages to curse the monster that was creating all the skeletons. Eating this thing gives him the ability to summon lower undead and higher equipment materialization among other things. Afterwards, the kobolds apologize for their mistake. They accidentally dug into Velvet Treasury, which the goblins evaded earlier, and they awakened its guardian, the Greater Skeleton. In a last-ditch effort to survive, they ran to the cave that belongs to Gobre, who has become known as the terrifying Black Ogre. These kobolds now call Gobre their lord, but Gobre points out that he has eliminated plenty of their kind. They are incredibly grateful for him saving them though, and they understand that their strong devouring the weak is just natural law. They owe their lives to him, so they declare that what happens to them from now on is totally up to Gobre. Gobre understands and has their wounds looked at by their cleric. Gobre then takes a look around at everyone in his cave. He has no idea how it happened, but he has gathered a pretty interesting crowd. The story continues. We see on day 61 Gobre goes hunting with Gobkichi and they catch sight of 12 armed human soldiers. They follow them and Gobre uses his ability to eavesdrop on them. He learns that the humans are trying to kidnap the daughter of the eldest chief. Furthermore, one of the elves tipped them off. The chief's daughter returns from a festival, so the humans begin their attack. They eliminate a bunch of her guards and capture her. Gobre would feel bad just letting her be taken away, so he rescues the girl and takes the humans prisoner. On day 62, he learned that the human army would make their move in 20 days. Gobre eat all 12 humans and earned a ton of abilities. When the elf girl wakes up, she is terrified of Gobre. He notices that she has wings, which is uncommon for elves. Gobre tries to calm her down, but she freaks out as she assumes that he's going to do terrible things to her. She eventually relaxes a bit after drinking some calming tea, but she gets upset when Gobre reveals that he couldn't save her guards. She blames him for just watching them get attacked, but he explains that the human-elf war is none of his business. He reveals that there is a traitor among the elves, so she should be more upset about that. She sobs uncontrollably, so Gobre just tells her to get some rest before they take her home. That night, Gobre has to remind the old guy to keep his hands to himself. On day 63, they take the elf home. She explains that winds are something only highs have, but they usually hide them inside their bodies. They are not meant to be shown to others, but she is so inexperienced with them that they pop out sometimes. When they arrive at the elf village, Gobre detects that 25 archers are aiming right at him with mithril arrowheads. Luckily, the chief's daughter explains that the ogre saved her life. The chief thanks them for saving his daughter, but Garbo explains that he didn't do it out of goodwill. He wants to reward and thinks about how he's letting the chief display well his kind means to him, so this will give Gobre a chance to get a grasp on the chief's judgment. Gobre was rewarded is something called the Fail Knot. It's a family treasure and magical item. The daughter is shocked that he would give this away, but the chief explains that it's a small price to pay for her safety. Gobre is pleased with this, so in return he offers to give the elves information about the human army's movements. The two groups are now on good terms, and the elves gave the goblins a ton of mineral equipment. The chief wonders if they know anything about a group of their elite fighters that have gone missing, but Gobre just pretends that he has no information on them. The chief even gives Gobre some good liquor as a gift, so Gobre vows to help them whenever they need. That night, Gobre can't believe how delicious their alcohol is. On day 64, Gobre's shocked to find that Gourmet has ranked up into a damper variant. On top of that, they ate new hobgoblins. Gourmet now has some new abilities as well. The god of ice has given her the ability to create and manipulate large amounts of ice. Her evil eyes ability can charm enemies into fighting amongst themselves. Gobre seems to recognize her appearance, but he isn't sure why. Gourmet has also evolved and she is now half Earth Lord. Earth Lords have the ability to manipulate the ground. She can also make her body stronger and can use lightning magic to detect gems. As for Hobsato, she evolved into a half-bloody lord. They have the ability to control blood and make it into weapons. Also, all goblins have tattoos for some reason and they're all in different locations. They see the tattoos give them power, so Gobre hopes to learn more about them. Because of all their evolutions, Gobji decides to give them all new names. We then get a look at a chart which ranks the races in terms of power. Ogres rank 5th behind the Dampers and the Lords. Ogre knows that the elves will turn to them for help when their battle against the humans begins. He determined that they need as many assets as they can get, so he gave out communication earrings to new comrades. The elf girls they have captive refuse to wear them as it's extremely taboo for helps to decorate their ears. However, Ogre took some time to change their minds. Ogre then had these new comrades join them during training. He then used his summon lower undead ability. He summoned skeletons so they could do some practical sparring. Ogre made some changes and summoned them with some armor. The more armor skeleton has, the higher quality it tends to be. The elves struggled and lost most of their matches. Ogre was still pleased as the group is building trust. On day 65, Ogre has learned that if he uses less mana he's able to create regular skeletons, zombies, and other undead. He wondered what they would taste like, but he found he couldn't eat them. They are good for practicing though and for gaining experience. They are purified in seconds during the daylight, so not being able to use them during the day is a drag. Ogre's group now has over 100 members. The kobolds are in a pretty low position, so they will have to work harder than everyone else. After a fight, Ogre worries that Gobfa may be eating too much rotten meat, but she thinks it's the best. On day 66, Ogre Earthy closed the exit to the cave where the skeletons were coming out of. He also had the kobolds do some hunting with the goal of getting more wolf familiars. The kobolds worked faster than he expected, so they were able to collect 20 wolves. On their way home, they encountered the powerful board and Earthy destroys it. Later, the forger reveals that she upgraded the axe that Ogre damaged while fighting the red bear. The entire thing was modified with an alloy of spirit stone, iron, and mithril. Ogre was impressed, and this smith girl revealed that she was able to upgrade into an elemental smith. On day 67, Ogrekichu reveals that he has always had a crush on Earthy. Ogre was surprisingly already known, so Ogrekichi explains that he needs help as he doesn't know what to do. Ogre then comes up with a plan for him. He wants Ogrekichi to do something that night and he hopes to hear good news in the morning. That night, Ogrekichi tells Earthy how he feels and she seems to take it well. The next morning, Ogrekichi feels really light on his feet and stronger than ever before during a match against Ogre. Ogrekichi's managing to land more attacks than usual, but Ogre was glad that things went well for his buddy. It turns out that Earthy talked to Dami about it the day before, so Ogre and Dami sets a stage for them. Ogrekichi has been so strong and full of energy that Ogre had to replace himself with the black skeleton in their sparring match. After training Ogre's usual group when hunting, they found a lot of insect monsters that he has never seen before, so Ogre gained even more abilities. The most interesting of them was called Exoskeleton. Ogre used it and was shocked to find that he had become like one of those transforming superheroes. This new exoskeleton is extremely durable. It has the ability to repair itself and disperse impacts. It's a little too flashy for Ogre's liking, but Dami thinks it looks cool. Ogre tries to change back to his old clothes, but he just ends up being in his birthday suit. It turns out that his normal clothes were used to create the exoskeleton. It's a shame as he really liked his outfit since it was made from the red bear's pelt. Ogre then finds that this exoskeleton ability is even more amazing as it allows them to register 5 forms. One form used the red bear so he can register 4 others. Ogre gave it some thought and decided that he wants forms for aerial sea battles, so to start he registers 1 form from the insects so he could sprout wings and fly. It's pretty difficult to control though, so he would need some practice. It's raining pretty hard on day 69, so the redhead wants Ogre to spar with her. She has been making steady progress, so she has been asking for more training lately. Ogre then thinks about how she used to seem like a puppy before, but now she seems more like a grown Doberman. As for the Smith girl, she has been meeting with elves regularly so they can bring some ideas for new weapons. She is working on developing a repeating crossbow, but tests have gone so well that Ogre has asked her to move on to manufacturing them. Ogre then gave her some more materials and the hopes that she could make a new weapon for him. The chef sisters have also received a new title called head chef. Ogre had them try and recreate dishes from his past life like potato chips. After that, Ogre had a meeting with the alchemist about manufacturing magical items. She reveals an item she created from the black skeleton bones. It's a bone nail that has the ability to freeze whoever struck with it in place. The other girls catch Ogre hugging the alchemist, but he doesn't elaborate on what happens next. On day 70, some elves arrive on behalf of the chief elf. These elves passed by their old comrades on the way in, but Ogre's earrings had a disguise effect that made them appear to be dark elves. The elf kid reveals that the humans are making their move. The elves won't be able to handle them on their own, so they need Ogre's assistance. Price is of no concern to them as the chief just wants the enemy eliminated completely. However, their contract will be considered void if Ogre retreats. Ogre accepts the job, but explains that they will do it in his terms. Ogre instructs the kid to give the elf chief a bracelet so they can communicate information as a crucial weapon, and Ogre already has his blood minis covering the woods. Ogre gathers everyone and declares that it's time to put everything they have been working on to use. Starting on this day, they will become a mercenary company. They are now a professional force of fighters, and everyone likes the idea. Ogre decides that they will be called the Parabellum Mercenary Company. He tells everyone to prepare for battle as it's time for their first job, and they all start chanting Parabellum. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.